Welcome to the FourthSquare Solutions Podcast. At FourthSquare, we're driving business transformation through technology and innovation. We focus on delivering enterprise-wide solutions beyond IT for the public and commercial sectors. What can we solve for you today?
Hi, and welcome to the FourthSquare Solutions Podcast. For those of you who are returning as existing listeners and viewers, welcome back. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Today's podcast, I couldn't be more happy to have as our guest Vince Vachio from VSG Commerce. Vince, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Kerry. It's great to be here today with you.
Yeah. So for the audience, some of you may be asking, why have Vince and VSG Commerce on as a guest? Well, guess what? FourthSquare just acquired VSG Commerce, and this provides some exciting opportunities for both companies. So before we dive into what that means, Vince, can you give us a little bit of background on yourself and VSG Commerce?
Sure, absolutely, Kerry. And again, thanks for having me today. My background is I've been in e-commerce now for 25 years on the business-to-business side. I was fortunate enough in 2000 to run global e-business for a company called Newell Rubbermaid, now Newell Brands. Back in 2000, we were over $5 billion in sales, one of Walmart's largest suppliers. So quickly, I learned about B2B commerce a very long time ago. And that's how we also got introduced to Oracle Commerce as well during that time.
Yeah. So you actually were building e-commerce sites and portals for, Walmart or for the company that you were working with?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of people laugh when I say I've been doing this since the early 2000s, but at Newell, we had 80 operating companies. And we learned very quickly that online service was as critical as online sales. Everybody thinks about commerce. You have to sell. Well, the reality was a majority of our revenue was coming through EDI, but we had thousands and thousands of smaller retail customers who were never going to use EDI. Gotcha. So yes, back then launched over 200 websites prior to leaving in 2006 and starting VSG Commerce.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what VSG Commerce does and, the products and services that they offer.
Sure. VSG Commerce is focused in on everything from design, whether that be creative design, functional design, or technical design. We focus in on the development of those front-end websites through quality assurance and deploying those. And ultimately, for our clients, we're looking to be a managed service for them once they go live. Because, once you launch that first site, you learn so much from your clients. And so, we tend to stay with our clients close to, almost 10 years. Some of them, we're a longtime partner. We're not really a staff augmentation company. And we focus in, helping B2B companies and B2B2C companies be successful online.
Yeah. So Vince, you've mentioned the word website and you develop websites and build websites. And I know a lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, oh man, why hire VSG? I can get Cousin Eddie, to build me a website. But you guys are doing some really complex websites, and I think of them more as e-commerce portals, right? Where people are doing business. Let's dig into that. What are some of those complex functionalities that you're building into a website that, say, Cousin Eddie just would have no clue as to how to do that?
Sure, sure. Well, that's great. And offline, I can tell you some funny cousin Eddie stories of where clients have tried to have, relatives build things seriously. But I think
Yeah.
the reality is that larger manufacturers, distributors, there's complexity on the pricing, right?
Yeah.
For, whether nobody really has tiered pricing. Some companies do, but most of them have very customer specific pricing. And so I would say that pricing is probably number one, making sure, because when you go online or when you sell online or you service online, that pricing must be accurate. So that
Hmm.
is really the key of everything that we do. The other piece is inventory, right? Making sure that inventory is accurate in today's world where everybody's trying to run with, low inventory levels or as low as possible. We want to make sure that we show, the folks that are online, where is that inventory? Because the reality is most people have more than one distribution center, right? So they may be pulling inventory from multiple, distributions. And then, the third part is about selling and getting that product to the right ship to, right?
Hmm.
We all know what it's like to check out online when we buy something ourselves, right? But imagine you're an organization that has hundreds of different ship tos in different regions, and you have to make sure that at the right time, the right price, you're shipping to the right location. And that's really, I think, where we have excelled over the years, is making sure that all of that, is happening in the right way, and that there's just quality in every transaction.
Yeah. So we're not talking about building a website, say for Joe's Bait Shop, who's doing, just somebody wants to, go online and, buy a pail of worms. We're talking about building these huge websites for like Home Depot and Lowe's, and giving the consumer that modern user experience, where you have, and on the front end, and then on the back end, that's where the complexity really comes in, because
Yeah.
I think you mentioned, right, you got to manage inventory, and you've got to, talk about managing that inventory, and what are your thoughts on, and then you got to feed into the financials of the organization. So we're talking about millions and millions of dollars of transactions going on, right?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And you're correct. Most of our clients are, you know, uh, I would say mid-market and enterprise level customers where we are, working through some of the most complex things that they have to, deal with on a day-to-day basis. And these sites are very deep. They're very wide. They're in the United States. They're in Europe. They're in, Canada, Asia Pac. Things are happening globally around the clock, and there are thousands of transactions that are occurring. Taking even a large company that's sort of just starting off from a certain position up to hundreds of millions of dollars, it has that excitement of a startup. And we
Mhm.
do, very candidly, we have worked with startups, or people that are, just sort of hitting, their growth stage at $20 million, a small family business, implementing something to take them from 20 million to 50 million to 100 million. We have done that, but we've also done the same thing for large organizations that may have an acquisition that they just made, for example, right? They may have just bought a product line.
Mhm.
Those types of things really do sort of create that startup sort of mentality, because, quickly you're having to merge things in, people and data and assets, and then boom, you're selling it online. It's pretty cool. I've been doing it for a long time, and as we said, the internet never sleeps, right? And so it is amazing to me the number of sales that happen after business closing hours, right?
Yeah.
Because especially with accounts, larger accounts that are out there, and businesses, for example, food, right, restaurants, right. They're doing most of their ordering, in the evening as they get through their day and they're cooking. and they're like, oh my gosh, we're running low on this inventory because we're running a special, right? And then that
Yeah.
order's coming in at 8 o'clock at night, and that truck has got to be sent out, by the morning to get it there before that restaurant opens up, as one example.
Yeah, yeah. So, very interesting and great insight, Vince. Which leads me to my next question. What is the typical customer for VSG? Is it that wanting to go to 20 to 50 million? Is it that that 100 million or $1 billion global company, or is it a little bit of both? What?
I would tell you it's a little bit of both in a lot of different scenarios, because every company is so different in what they're trying to accomplish. Again, our strength and focus has been on the B2B side, right? Strong B2B companies. A lot of them, may have a B2C element, right? Especially if you're consumer products, right? You may be selling to thousands of accounts, retail customers. However, you have a new product, you have excess and obsolete inventory that you're going to sell direct to consumer to avoid the channel conflict, right? However, again, we go back to our strengths, which is industrial products, right?
Gotcha.
Medical products. These are the things that we excel in working with everybody from the marketing team, who's doing the branding, to the sales teams that are engaging with all of their customers, customer service, right? The brains of every organization, because they're taking in the feedback from customers on what's working, what's not working, what they need. The operations team, again, going back to inventory and distribution centers, and the IT teams, right? We have to work with the IT teams to make sure that the connections between the front end of what we're doing and the back end to that ERP or another third party system, we have to make sure it's perfect every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So, we talked about a lot of these commercial accounts, but stepping out of commercial, you and I have talked about, one segment that you're really passionate about is nonprofit. Share with me, some of the organizations that you've worked with in the nonprofits sector that people typically wouldn't think of. Hey, they need a robust, e-commerce portal.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a quick story and then bring it present day. I really started to get into nonprofits back in I think it was 1998. Yes, the internet was alive and well. Working for Sears, as a part of their volunteerism team, we did something called Coats for Kids, completely online, where we had school teachers coming online, right, to register their children, and we were giving them coats. Ever since then, nonprofits have always meant something to myself and to my team. More recently, we started working in a niche with a company called National Industries for the Blind and Lighthouse for the Blind, building websites for those people that were visually impaired and or blind, right? Yeah. It has been an incredible experience for me to be able to work with this, fine group of folks, whether they're in the customer service group, again, operations, other groups, to be able to build things for them that were impactful. We built a point of sale system for people that are visually impaired. Just an absolutely incredible thing to do, the right thing to do so that, jobs can be created. And so, we've done that. We've done some work in the public sector where we started, working on plans to communicate, right? Content, a little bit of commerce, engagement, and collaboration, for certain cities and what they were trying to do with, again, school age kids. There's just that passion, for me, that has been around a long time. We don't get to work on a lot of those types of projects with a lot of those wonderful folks, but boy, when we do, we just dive into these things because it's awesome. And we learn a ton, in doing those projects.
Yeah, it is really is fun when you start working with organizations that, provide a tremendous amount of intrinsic value to those that, that really need services like, folks that are visually impaired, hearing impaired or have intellectual, differences and intellectual disabilities. So, we've had the good fortune here at FourthSquare to be working on some of those projects. So I really can relate to your passion. And when you talk about that, you just really lit up on that. So that's wonderful. Vince, when organizations like VSG and FourthSquare, they merge, we're both successful companies, right? So when we merge, some people think, well, 1+1 should equal 2, but there's a reason for the merger. And that reason is, 1+1 should equal 3 or 4 or 5, right? Where do you see some of the synergies to where, VSG and FourthSquare by merging together can equal more than 2, can equal that 3, 4, 5, or 6?
Sure. Where I have seen it in the time that we've worked with FourthSquare, even before the acquisition, was that we just worked really easily and closely together.
Mm-hmm.
All of us work with other third-party companies, but with FourthSquare, it was different. There was just a level of transparency and
Mm-hmm.
urgency that we saw, incredibly quickly with them. And then, as we came up towards the acquisition, we just started to accelerate that, on the
Mm-hmm.
project. Essentially, we met working together, on a project, and I can
Mm-hmm.
tell that story later. But it was just, the value is the quickness of both organizations and the transparency to collaborate on things. What we do is very difficult, right? Nobody's going to say it's easy. Yeah, cousin Eddie's cousin, forget about those things. You have to be able to look through every single process at all of the data. And again, it just has to be done accurately and extremely well. And in working with the FourthSquare team and their skills on the ERP side have been incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
We focus on the front side. I joke around all the time with people, hey, I build pretty websites,
Mm-hmm.
right? As it's to get a laugh from them. But the reality is we do our front end. We understand what the user experience needs to be. We know what the process needs to be. We know what the results need to be. But
Mm-hmm.
on that backhand side, that is where the FourthSquare team is just completely excelled. And when Venkat spoke to me that first time, about merging and about the acquisition, it was, for me, it just made a whole lot of sense to do that. The timing of it was fantastic. And, we've just continued to sort of build upon it.
Yeah. So that later is now. Let's talk about you. So we were working. We have a customer. They're automotive supplier, and we support and manage their ERP and supply chain for them. And then they were looking for a new e-commerce portal, and that's where we reached out to you and we brought you in. And that's been a successful implementation now. So let's talk a little bit about that project.
Sure. Absolutely. I think the thing that I really enjoyed about that project, prior to them even approving the project, was that we worked probably together for, I would say, a couple of months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reviewing what they were trying to accomplish. We call it our discovery process, right? Before we even start a project, we're going through discovery. We're understanding where their pain points were in their current, solution that they had. We understood where things weren't connected the way they wanted them to be connected.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just see sort of in their eyes, right, that they were like, oh my gosh, that would be amazing, right? If we could actually get all this accurate information and it would cut down on the work that they had to do. So that first part of that project to me was just fantastic. We had a great client. We had a great team, and we had that that product, on the Oracle Commerce Cloud side that was fantastic. This was a company that, like you said, they already work with FourthSquare and they're on their ERP. And, they wanted to match it up with a comparable commerce product. So they felt comfortable to obviously make that, decision to not only get the product, but also to bring in our services together. Which was fantastic. And then, as we worked through that project again, from discovery, we went into that design and then development. Things worked very well, very quickly. We moved through the process and, probably, under 6 months. And this was a large, like you said, automotive supplier. And, there was a lot of complexity there, but we moved very quickly. Their team was extremely engaged, which was fantastic, made decisions quickly. And the next thing you knew, we were testing, real live, information in their staging environment, right? To make sure that they liked what we were delivering, that it was accurate. You always come across things as you go through integration testing, and we were able to jump on them, correct them, and move forward. So we were all very excited after the initial launch, which is probably 2 months now. And, it's just been incredible, the feedback that they're getting from their customers, on that, how happy they are. We've continued to slowly do a couple of enhancements of what they've asked for. But, at this point, everybody sees it as a great success. So,
Yeah.
very, very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for sharing. Well, I know, with FourthSquare being an Oracle shop for ERP, HR, supply chain, bringing you folks into the FourthSquare family because you guys are 100% Oracle e-commerce shop. I just think there's a lot of synergy that can be had. And I think everybody saw that when we were working on this particular project. And I think that can grow. So I honestly think and am very confident that 1 + 1 is going to equal that 5 or 6. So we're super, super happy to have, VSG and your team that you're bringing over to be part of the FourthSquare team. Now, I have to ask you, that's a really cool guitar back there, Vince. Do you play guitar? How did you acquire that? That looks like I don't know. Tell me, what's the history behind that?
Sure. Well, first off, let me talk about how I got the guitar. That was working through another Oracle Commerce client called Fender Musical Instruments. I'm a big fan of David Gilmour, who is the guitarist for Pink Floyd for many years, and that is from the Fender Custom Shop. It is their signature series Black Strat, which David played all those years. And so we did a lot of work for Fender. And when I first started working for them, it was just a great experience. And I said to them, I just want to get that guitar at some point. And, after a week of working with them, they came into the conference room one day, sort of with a guitar case, and they said, "Hey, Vince, we want you to have it." And
nice.
And so I was like, "Boy, I have to hang that thing proudly in my home." And so, we built a nice display with it and everything, and it's something I value and treasure. Do I play? The second question. I play very poorly. I enjoy playing guitar. It's tough. And I always tell people, I joke around, say, it's just me and a bunch of 12-year-olds at Guitar Center taking lessons. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun when you hit the right chords and you hear something that even sounds remotely like the original. You get all excited. But I'll never go out on tour. I'm going to stick to building websites. But it is a whole lot of fun though to play once in a while.
Yeah. So one last question, Vince, before we leave here, when you're not building websites, and I use websites, I don't like using that word because you guys are doing much more than building websites, as we talked about before. But when you're not doing that, what do you like to do?
For me, I'm a pretty simple guy. I love to. I love to walk a lot, work out, play golf, right? I'm working on my golf game. I'm below a 20 handicap, which for me is a good thing after not golfing much
That's
for a
right.
while. Enjoying time with the family, and now I have a couple of grandkids to enjoy as well. So, very lucky man, and just looking forward to enjoying life, and like I said, just continue to be a part of the FourthSquare family, and helping companies be successful. So, and
Well,
I enjoy what I do. So I got to throw that in as well.
absolutely. Well, very few people get to do what they love to do. And it sounds like you've had a wonderful, career actually getting to do that. And I tell you what, now I know why you and Venkat get along, because you both love to play golf and you're joining the right organization. So, hey, Vince, thank you so much for spending your time with us today and sharing your insights. And for those of you who are listening and tuning in, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. We try and go beyond IT here and bring you some things that are educational and on, a bit of entertainment as we do that. We come every 2 weeks with these episodes. So tune in, be looking for another 2 weeks. Please come back. And in between now and then, in the meantime, as I always say, how would you like to transform your business through technology and innovation? Thank you again, and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FourthSquare Solutions Podcast. We hope you found it insightful. Visit FourthSquare.com to learn more about our team and capabilities. While you're there, search our knowledge base to find articles, white papers, and case studies. You can also listen to additional episodes and read our In the Square newsletter. Until next time, what can FourthSquare solve for you?